What's the phone? Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. We are fortunate to have, it looks like 5 of our individuals who received tenure last year. We weren't able to do this last school year, as everybody knows, because of COVID. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to do it tonight. What I want to start by saying is this. Last meeting, we were able to honor our retirees. And our retirees have given great service to our district. And the opportunity to honor those who are receiving tenure in our district, it's our future. It's the people who will continue to shape the hearts and minds of our future generations. And, you know, I look at it this way: when we hire a teacher, we're not hiring them for a year, we're hiring them for 30. And the number of minds that they are able to help shape and work with over those years is incredibly significant. It's so important for our community, and it's important not only for our own school community, but for our entire nation. So it's always very exciting when we have this opportunity. So if I could, I'm actually going to start, and I want to talk about for a minute about our athletic director. I know I actually had an opportunity in a meeting last year to talk a little bit about Mr. McKenna. What I would say first and foremost is this: Mr. McKenna, from the day he walked in this place, immediately became a Falcon. Everything that he talked about was being an NW Falcon. And that to me was incredibly positive for our school district, for our athletic department. He's been instrumental in resurrecting our modified program. He's brought us the unified sports program. He helped guide us with the layout for our turf complex, which certainly we enjoy celebrating now and look forward to celebrating more in the future. And he's actually been the athletic director for our district's first ever, is it called the Primacy Award, Mr. McKenna? What's Supremacy Award, excuse me. And possibly this, the Supremacy Award means that we, compared to all of the other districts who are part of the NFL, were considered number 1. It was our first ever honor, winning that award a couple of years ago. So, you know, he's certainly someone who loves athletics, loves physical education, and I think we made a great choice in selecting him, and I look forward to him being part of our administrative team for years to come. So, Mr. McKenna. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Schmidt for a minute, who's going to talk about a couple of his teachers.
This is Kelly Bucci. Kelly Bucci teaches Spanish at the middle school, and I first want to congratulate you on your tenure. Thank you for everything you do for the kids. Thank you for teaching a foreign language over Zoom this year. Awesome. So congratulations on your tenure. Right. And one of the things that stands out with Kelly, as you can see, is her positivity and her flexibility with the students. Not only is it a unique position to teach in a middle school, but also teach foreign language. So thank you so very much. Congratulations. I look forward to 2020. Well, so Noelle Failing, she is one of our 15-1-1 teachers, self-contained teachers at the middle school. Congratulations on your tenure. Thank you. Thank you all for everything you do. And thank you so much for how much you have had to adapt your instruction to the ever-changing needs of the students who have. Not only that, with the intricacies of curriculum that comes out. So thank you so very much. Thank you for your talented voices on YouTube. It's always great and entertaining. Overarching, if anybody wants to check those out. She found a very creative way during the pandemic to keep her kids interested and engaged in education as well. So congratulations, Noel. Look forward to some awesome. Yeah.
Next, the high school and Mr. White.
Neither of the teachers receiving tenure are here tonight, but I can speak a little bit about that. First is Mr. Greg Rosebach. He is a teacher, he's an advisor, he's a mentor, he's a coach. He coaches women's hockey. He is the advisor for our Business Marketing Honors Club and also DECA. I did stop his classroom this afternoon just to say hi. There were 16 students in the room. And I did share with the students in the room that he was receiving tenure tonight. The instant I said it, the class erupted into applause. And that to me said a whole lot about Mr. Rosebach. He's well liked. People seek him. Students seek him. He's an asset to the high school, and we're very happy he's in the same. That's Mr. Rosebach.
Thank you. That's very nice.
He's our teacher. And I'm ashamed to say, and maybe I shouldn't be, but when I go and observe an art teacher or a music teacher, you go in with the best intentions to check everything they're supposed to do to be a good teacher. Are they engaging? Do they develop rapport relationships with students? You know, do they structure their lessons in a certain way? Are students learning? Are they assessing students? We look for all those things. But at some point, when you observe a music teacher or an art teacher, you become a student, and you get lost in becoming a student because the talents and skills they have overwhelm that observation piece. And I'm amazed at the skill that Kelly has as an artist and her ability to instruct students in the art classroom. And that's Kelly.
Thanks.
Thank you, and when I see them tomorrow, I'll tell them that you guys were thankful that they're here with us. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I have the opportunity to talk a little bit about Carly Dunlap because Mr. Monk could not make it this evening, okay? Mr. Monk says Carly is one of the hardest working teachers I have, and I've had a pleasure working with her. She works tirelessly to improve her craft. Carly has always put students first and is so deserving of tenure. And I can just speak to a little bit being in West Street and housed in West Street. Whenever I walk into the elementary wing, the first classroom that I can see straight ahead to my right is her class. And I always see kids engaged. They're always having fun. She just brings fun and engagement to her classroom. And it's kind of neat that I get to see that myself in your classroom. So congratulations on your tenure. I am now going to just read off the list of the other individuals who did receive tenure who are not here tonight. Kristen Williams, she's a CB counselor. Kylie Smith, a special education teacher at CB. Ed Schiffert, who is an elementary teacher at Tuscarora. Caitlin Steger, who is a Tuscarora elementary teacher. Tricia Manarino, who is a West Street elementary teacher. Ruth Evans, who was a West Street elementary education teacher. And Ashley Gleason, who was a special education teacher at ETMS. So I'd like to congratulate all of those people as well.
Right. At this time, we will have about a 10-minute little break. We have some cookies and water back there. I know Mr. Bax has been eyeing up the cookies back there already, so good job, Mr. Bax. So we will reconvene at about 5 after.
One getting a flag. So the patrol.
So, yeah, I'm glad that because I wasn't sure the house. So we're like, where's the
Start making your way back to your seats, please. At this point, I'll call the regular meeting to order. Please stand for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time we'll have our Equity and Education Steering Committee presentation.
If I could, before we start that, I just wanted to recognize Mr. Groskopf. He is here in the back. Mr. White did talk about him a little bit earlier for tenure. Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me in the back? Great. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about our steering committee, our Equity and Education Steering Committee. And you're going to hear from a number of people, including myself. The committee members that you're going to hear tonight, there were many committee members. The committee members you'll hear from tonight were the co-chairs for the two separate committees that we had, subcommittees we had within the larger committee. Okay. You know, some people asked where this came from for me, for the district, and it was really born out of kind of the early part of the pandemic from a couple different things. One, it became really obvious as a district the impact that poverty had within our district for families when the pandemic hit. Whether it was food scarcity, lack of access to technology, lack of access to Wi-Fi. It was, again, really clear to us. It's not that as a district we didn't understand that those challenges existed within our school community, but the pandemic really shined a light on them. Okay. So that was number one. And the second really had to do with the social justice movement, which happened. And what that said to me was that we have a very diverse school community, and we want to make sure that everyone in our school community feels welcome, feels like they're respected, like they're valued. And we believe that, and I believe that that was a really important thing. So, you know, it really was born out of that. And it was interesting. While that movement started, one of the things that I recalled, I remembered back to prior to teaching, I was in something called the Upward Bound program. The Upward Bound program was a program where we taught students from 5 different districts. I went to Fredonia, and over the summer, I was in a summer program where I was teaching students in a summer school program that came from 5 different districts. And one of the other people who was there teaching with me was a college student as well in Fredonia. He was from West Africa. His parents had migrated to the United States. And we were walking home one day, and we were passing a convenience store. And I said, I'm going to get a drink. And he said, you're going into that store? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you know, they don't treat me really well whenever I go in there for people of my color. And I said, really? Well, so we walked in, and he goes, just watch what happens. And I went in and got my drink, and he walked to the back of the store and then walked all the way down the aisle on the back of the store. And this was one of the old Wilson Farm convenience stores. If you remember, they always had that mirror in the back of the store where you could see him, right? So I could see him go as he was going down the aisles. And immediately as he started walking to the back of the store, each aisle that he walked to, the owner, manager, employee, whoever it was at the front of the store. And they had a long aisle on their end of the counter. And they just started walking with that person all the way down the store. And I was standing right there at the cash register. I could have walked right out with my soda. Nobody was said a thing. And I realized at that time that one of the things that I never experienced was what it was like to be him. And then the real sad part about that story, right, is that he knew that was going to happen before he walked in there. And he knew that other people who were like him walked in that store and experienced that same thing. So, you know, it was interesting that kind of took me back to that place. So I put out a request for people who might be interested in joining this committee. Mr. Kowalski, if you could jump to the next slide there. The need, did it skip? Oh no, this is good. The need, no, you had it right. I think. The need really came from, we have CDEP goals. Those are our comprehensive district educational planning goals. And that first goal hasn't changed much in a number of years. And it says the district will continue to cultivate a safe, healthy, and supportive environment. Right? The goal is to provide supports for student success, empathy, acceptance, valuing all people all the time. And that in the end, the ultimate goal for all of our students is that they succeed, that they can achieve excellence. Okay. Next. So whenever I wrote out what the kind of the overarching goals were for the committee, it was to identify the equity gaps where they exist, and then make recommendations on how do we fill those gaps, quite simply. We wanted to review, it became clear, 2 different arenas, if you will. One was poverty and education and the impact of poverty on education. And the second one was, well, what are the inequities that we have within our school district? Okay? So those were really the 2 things that we elected to focus on. So, you know, we talked a little about what equity is and defined equity. This was a slide that we used at one of the meetings. One of our principals brought it. You know, what is your definition of equity? Does fair mean equal in education? And if you go to the next slide, this is a pretty famous and often used picture here. You can see the one on the left would be equal. In other words, you have three people who are all trying to see the same sporting event. If you can't see that from where you are, I apologize. If you gave them all the same size thing to stand on, one person gets to see, one's up on their tiptoes, you can't really see that, so they can barely see, and the third one can't see at all. Where in the other picture, you provide some equity. Now, what I think most people understand is that in schools, we've been doing this for years and years and years, all the time, right? Our students all come to us in very different places. And we don't say, well, we're only going to teach you at the bar where we think you should be. We're not going to start you, we're going to start you all right here, even though we know some of you are back here. We don't do that, right? We make sure that we go to where the needs of the students are and then help them along with the ultimate goal of getting all students at the end to graduation, right? That's our ultimate goal. So here you can see, attempt to level the playing field so that each child can achieve excellence. And then I'm not going to read the definition to you, but this is how it was defined. Equity was defined in the New York State's Every Student Succeeds Act. Okay. Next slide. So I said we broke up into two different subgroups. The first subgroup focused on poverty and education. And you can see the names of the members of the committee. We had students, we had parents in our community, we had teachers, we had members of our SOP unit represented, administrators. That right there is this group, and you can see the role that they played and how they came into the district. Remember, completely voluntary for people to be part of this. They didn't have to. So in that group, we had two people who stepped up and said that they would be co-chairs. And I thank them for all of their work this year. The first one is Marissa Buich, who is our principal at Colonial Village. And the second is Vincenza Viola, who works at Colonial Village as well. Okay. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to come up and talk to you a little bit about poverty and education and what we found this year. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Marissa. I'm Vincenza, for those of you who don't know us. As a subcommittee, we reviewed and looked at the impact of poverty and education on a global level. In an effort to address the obstacles that poverty places in the way of those students and families that it impacts, we identified three very broad goals. Can you hear me for this? Okay. Thank you. Would you like me to start again? Very good. You're good? Okay. So the three very broad goals that we drilled down to were a systemic goal focusing on awareness, empathy, and an acknowledgement of what poverty does to our students in education. A social goal focusing on providing supports to address and balance inequity for our community. And an academic goal focused on identifying and addressing inequities directly impacting our students' learning. In order to get a handle on what we wanted to do first, we did develop and disseminate a survey to all of our students, faculty, and families in late February. It was the Obstacles to Education survey. We sent that out to try to understand and get a better handle on what the specific impacts were for our families in Edgar Wheatfield. So we did do that. We collected the data and spent the next 4 months, really drilling down and trying to identify how we could make the biggest impact for our school community with that information. And Vincenza will share that information with you right now.
So the first question that we posed and found the most helpful responses to were what services provided by the school were found most helpful by our families. The top answer was co-curricular activities, which yes, is very important and we will continue to emphasize. But again, we're looking for most important or impactful needs of our families. So I think it's important to really look at, the food pickup, drop-off services, the anti-bullying programs, and social emotional learning. Those were the next two most popular responses from our community. The next slide. Then we wanted to know what is impacting you now, or at least in the last 5 years. And you can see the two most popular responses were computers and tablets and digital literacy. which I think just given the pandemic is not really much of a surprise to anyone here. I think the pandemic really emphasized the need for digital literacy and assistance in our community with helping to understand how to use technology. Then the other areas again were transportation, children missing the bus and what to do after that, as well as transportation for parents and families to and from school events. Then after that, you can see we had access to Wi-Fi and food. So it really kind of just emphasized some of the really immediate areas that we wanted to focus on. So trying to pick one goal to really emphasize and hone in on, we decided that goal number 2 was definitely the place we wanted to start first. And that was, again, identifying and addressing the immediate implications that poverty has for our school community. And you can see below that those are really a lot of the responses are the more popular areas of need.
Next slide. Thank you. So to just give you a little bit more information of what our next steps will be and what we would like to do moving forward in the immediate future, we did come back together after we had time to digest the information that we were able to receive in the data, and we did pull together all of our district point persons that support many of the initiatives that are bulleted up there and that were identified through that survey. In doing so, we were able to take an inventory of what we currently are doing, because obviously we're already doing so many wonderful things here and have so many services to offer our families, but to take an inventory of it and find out how we could maximize on what we already had access to, and then what we would like to expand on, sorry. So with respect to food insecurity, Dominic really does an amazing job. He's going to be providing food to our students this summer. We also partnered with the Niagara County Youth Bureau. We partnered with them last year as well, but they're willing to continue the relationship with us, which is fantastic for our kids. We're also looking to potentially partner with Feed More Western New York to bring a mobile food pantry to district for our families and for the community in general here in Wheatfield. As far as counseling and resources, obviously, we have a plethora of counseling opportunities for our students in-house, but we also partner with Gateway Longview. We're looking to expand those services. We're also looking to continue to expand with the Center for Health of Greater Niagara. We currently, well, we have it in a bit, but we were in the process of partnering with them to bring dental and medical supports to our students. They also offer free counseling. So that's something that might be really beneficial for our entire school community. Vincenzo referenced the digital divide, as I know Dan and Tom did on multiple occasions to all of you over the course of the past year. But, yes, there was the physical digital divide, those who had access to Wi-Fi and to devices, but there's also another digital divide, and that is digital literacy. So we spoke with Jeff Hazel and Jessica Smith and talked about how we can better support our entire school community, our students, our families, and our staff, in order to make sure that they have the tools they need to receive the benefits of the digital world. It was interesting this year. Like, yes, we couldn't be all together in person, but having a digital option for meetings and for getting together was something really beneficial in a lot of instances. Childcare is difficult. Many of our families struggle with transportation. Having that option to bring everybody together and engage the community that way was great. In the instances that it worked. I think that we can do a lot to maximize on that, and we're going to definitely explore those options. Up there is also, sorry, I can't see. Clothing closets. So in many of our buildings, we have resources for our students. We have backpacks, we have clothes, socks, shoes. We collect them throughout the year. We get many, many donations. I think that, what we found in our conversations with the rest of the Impact on Poverty subcommittee was that, it's great that we have them in-house at many of our schools, but it also makes a lot of sense to streamline a lot of what we're doing. So yes, make sure that we put those resources in the buildings and in the places where they're needed the most, but also give our school community a way to access all of this information. So a major recommendation in conversations that we've had with district is, to build a family support center or family support center network, and make sure that there is a person who can support those families in getting the resources, whether they're ones that we already have available to us or ones that we're partnering with. And there's so much out there and we offer so much. We'd love to continue to offer as much as we possibly can, but really being able to hold people's hands when they need us to and to point them in the right directions, that's huge. And it will do nothing but benefit our kids. So we're all really, really excited about the work that we've done. And we know that it will help us to achieve, providing an opportunity for success for all of our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Thank you. Oh, just kind of a little repeat of what you saw in picture form earlier. Okay, next, we ended up, as I said, we had two subcommittees, and one of them was Inequity for Subgroups and Education Subcommittee. And you can see our members there. We had two people step up in this group to take the lead as co-chairs. One of them was Angela Porter and one Nicholas Azarella. They are two of our secondary teachers. I'm going to ask them to join me up here if they would. I am going to, there's a couple of slides here that I'll jump in on in a minute, so I'll get off to the side.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. My pronouns are he, him.
Hi, my name's Angela Porter, and my pronouns are she, her. So when we received the email from Dan, I know that as a secondary teacher, we see a lot of the results of students who don't feel welcome manifest themselves in very negative situations. And so because I would love to advocate for my students as much as possible, I jumped at the chance.
Sure. I joined as a marginalized impact group member. I'm a gay man, and I work with the GSA here. I teach special education to students in the life skills program. I kind of am just that person that's in the building with the kids that need support. So when the invite came, I said, I have to do this. It's for them. And I knew Ange would be in it too, so we jumped at the chance.
This quote right here is one of the answers that was given by a student. We sent out an anonymous survey probably in March, I think, and we opened it to the entire high school community. It was on Google Classrooms, it was on the website, and so we had about 300 people participate. And so this was one of the quotes, and I'll just read it for those who can't read it in the back. I want people to read what I wrote in the survey because rather than just teaching students about a group of people, showing them the perspective of one of their peers could have a greater impact on them. A lot of people are scared to share their story, so giving them a choice to do so, to do it anonymously would benefit kids like me. Thank you for caring. Sorry for my glasses. Can you next, Dan? Okay, so our committee, and B is here as well. Mr. White is here as well. B, our home, she's from Eric Road. We had students on the committee, like really awesome participants. And so we came up with goals, and we classified them in long-term and short-term. So our long-term goals would be that the district will further promote a culture that fosters a more inclusive environment for all students, faculty, and staff.
That the district will continue to recruit staff from all impact groups in an effort to have the staff reflective of its diverse community.
And the district will review curriculum at all levels to ensure it is inclusive of all learners. Next, thanks. For the short-term goals, we chose the following three. The district will continue to include professional development that focuses on cultural competency within our impact groups.
And that the district will establish a student-led group that represents members of the impact groups.
And then also the district will include a group of stakeholders to assess the need of a restorative justice plan. District data will be used in the decision-making. And for those who don't know, a very, very like small synopsis of restorative justice is simply if a student breaks a school rule, there will be, rather than, no conversation, just you did this, you're punished, this is your punishment. Restorative justice looks at perhaps why that particular behavior happened and looking at a way in which to remedy the situation in addition to the punishment that's given.
All these goals developed out of information gained from the survey and the conversations within the group. So they were organically developed from what students and staff provided us to see as what they wanted.
Okay. Also, we had goals of the district will complete an inventory of resources in classrooms and libraries for material that inform and represent members of impact groups. By curating relevant articles and research, the district will have a library to be better informed about the issues that confront us.
This came out quite often. The next short-term goal, we thought it was a very easy one to accomplish, that the district will use signage, displays, and flags to reflect and celebrate in celebration of the impact group's achievements. And also that the history months will be acknowledged within all the impact groups.
Okay, so this pie chart was one of the answers to the multiple questions that we asked. And as you can see, it's just, it reflects our diverse community. The impact groups that are listed are Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQIA+, women, religion, and that went to anybody that feels strongly about their faith. I can't read that.
Yep, differently abled, that I can't identify as a member of the impact group. And then the last was religion, because through the survey, when we first put it out and conversation we had, immediately we got information back. And someone said, can you include atheism in with religion, since it is a non-religion, but yet it falls in kind of that broader category? We said yes, so it kind of immediately reflected on a deepening of our knowledge of the impact groups.
And this is just one of the responses that we had. So every single impact group had basically the two questions, such as, have I had a negative experience at Niagara Wheatfield due to me being a member of that particular group? And then the other question was, do I feel like I have to act a certain way because I'm a member of this group? And I'm very sorry, but I can't read those answers. But as you can see, and I'm sure it's available online, those are quotations directly taken from the answers of the survey. And as you can see, unfortunately, there are a lot of students at the high school who feel as though they need to act a certain way because they're a member of Black, Indigenous, people of color. Next.
This reflects, even in a larger component, the same feelings that were reflected in the BIPOC section. When we asked the queer community how they were feeling and their experiences in Wheatfield, the majority, about 75% of the members felt that yes, they had been oppressed or insulted or harmed in some way for being themselves.
And we didn't include the slides just because it was difficult to visually capture, but this is relevant to an academic sense because of the way that people feel unwelcome in the school, it leads to staff members missing work, and that it was reflective in the survey. Students skipping school, students avoiding certain places, students not signing up for extracurricular activities or sporting because of the fear of being insulted or assaulted.
Yes, these are a little clearer. I'm not going to read all of them. I'll hit kind of a couple of them. The second bullet says, I've been made fun of because I'm a girl who likes girls. I've been called horrible names, which I won't put on here, but it's not easy. And that's a sentiment that comes up a lot through the responses that were shared. At the third from the bottom there says, hearing students and sometimes staff make bad remarks or name call LGBT and Black people as a whole, been name called directly and bullied to the point of skipping school. So the responses came back and we heard the voices of our students at the high school. We heard the voices of our staff as a whole. This went out to all district staff. And it's telling, it's impactful, it's knowledgeable, that there are students, there are staff in our district that don't feel comfortable or accepted. And we have to reach them because our goal as a public education institution is to teach all and to benefit all. So this is where our work comes to.
Okay, a little video here. This was shared. Actually, this was on a recent newscast, and I want you to watch this, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Yeah, that's okay. Yep. It's gonna go out.
Our rich Native American culture.
Yeah, it's a culture celebrated back in 1975 by one of the biggest names in music history. A visit that is now once again in the spotlight, as we find in this week's edition of the Unknown Stories of Western New York. Martin Scorsese's Rolling Thunder Review is a documentary about Bob Dylan's 1975 tour of the same name. The idea behind the tour, Dylan said, was to play for the people who never got good seats to his larger concerts because of higher ticket costs and inconvenient locations.
This is where everybody walked in: Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell.
For the people of the Tuscarora Nation, it was more than that.
Dylan came through here and some woman grabbed him and kissed him. I don't know if you like that or not.
After his November 15th show at the Niagara Falls Convention Center, he, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, and several other big names paid a visit to the territory for a potluck dinner.
But I got a call to come to the old gym and cook because we were going to put on a feast. So bring whatever you can. So all I had was a huge squash, must have been about that big. I threw it in the oven and turned it up to 500. And 45 minutes later, it blew up. So I was scraping it off the edge of the oven because now we got to hurry. So I threw it in that squash and brought it up here. And
All kinds of people, and everybody just had a wonderful, enjoyable day. Great experience.
Dylan even performed a rendition of the Ballad of Ira Hayes, a song about a Native American Marine who was one of the group that raised the flag at Iwo Jima.
Bob Dylan in 11/16/75.
Many of the people in this circle shared stories and pictures of the day. What do you remember most about the day?
Joan Baez was holding my daughter. My daughter was about 15 months old.
It was a day of celebration, to be sure, and as Chief Leo Henry points out, a day of respect.
Let's say an honor for the nation that somebody of that class would come and perform for them for nothing.
It showed the world that there are people out there who care, and well-known people who understand a little bit more than most of the United States, and they're supportive of our culture and of our people.
Adding a musical chapter to the unknown stories of Western New York.
So when I watched that, remember we're talking 46 years ago, right? Chief Henry, who I will tell you, one of the, could you turn the volume down just a little bit, please? Chief Henry, who I feel like very fortunate to have gotten to know over the last 6 years. We meet regularly with the Tuscarora Council. His words there are so powerful, but so simple, that they were honored. The Tuscarora Nation was honored because they came to them, that they felt like they were respected in a way, right? I can tell you this, 6 years ago, in coming into the district, there was work that needed to be done with regard to the relationship with the district and the Tuscarora Nation. And we've spent a lot of time cultivating that relationship. And a lot of you probably have heard this quote, so, and I don't know who it is, so I apologize to whoever said it first, but it's used in education all the time. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And anybody who's ever been in a classroom, it doesn't take much to think back to the teacher who reached out to them and actually reached them and how they performed in that class or those classes, because those teachers reached out to them and then they cared. Here you see a nation saying, thank you for caring enough to respect us, to honor us. And I just think, you know, as you may guess now, if you didn't know before, my background, social studies, and that's what I taught before, you know, going into educational administration. So getting back to the subgroup here, speaking specifically, if you could to the next slide, the Tuscarora Nation, we've invested time and energy appropriately with the nation, with the Tuscarora Council. We've made sure that the curriculum at the elementary levels was all the same. So communication, relationship building, all those things that are incredibly important. What's the translation been academically? You can see if you're using Business First, their rankings here in Western New York. Tuscarora School was 214 out of 250 schools in 2016. In 2020, they were 144 out of 252. They jumped 70 spots. It's not from any one thing. It's from many, many different things, of course. My feeling and the idea with our subgroups is imagine making the time and energy commitment with each and every one of those groups. What will we see on the academic end for each of those groups? So, you know, that kind of targeted improvement, I think we can get with all of our groups, with everyone who, if they know that we care, they'll care a lot more about what we know. And so that's Tuscarora Elementary. If you go to the next slide. Our community is very diverse. We have a history of farming. If you want to bring something.
So when we were talking about, okay, how are we going to best present what we're doing, why we're doing it, what are our hopes and dreams, I immediately thought of the Zuccari family. And I was very blessed 16 years ago when I became a Falcon, that Katie Zuccari and I became friends. And it turned out my uncle and her dad were good friends, you know, back in high school. And I was really interested in learning about what her life was like living on a farm. And our friendship has grown and blossomed, and it was wonderful. And I kept going back to this idea that Niagara Wheatfield was a farming community. And there's many beautiful facets of people who embrace farming is that farmers help each other out. And historically, if a farmer was in need, other farmers, it wouldn't even be a question. They would just jump in and help out. And, you know, we hear about like barn raisings, or there were like these pound parties where people would bring a pound of their, you know, their good, whatever they raised or they canned or whatever. And so Dominic Zuccari is a 7th grader. I think do I have to sign in for that? Yeah, okay. Could you sign in, Mr. Lowan? It's because you have permission. He's in 7th grade, and he has been like a YouTube sensation a bit because he's chronicling the life of farming at the Zuccari Dairy. And we're very fortunate that his father, Anthony, and Bob Zuccari, Katie's dad, they sat down for a little interview, just kind of talking about how long they've been farming and what, you know, and just from primary sources, what happens if one of their farming community members needs help, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do with this committee, is that we are trying to make sure that every single student and their family in this community is helped out when they need it, or is supported and feels welcome to come to school every day.
We should be all set.
There we go.
How long have you been farming? I have been farming basically my whole life. I grew up here on the farm. So I'm 44 and I've been farming since I was a young boy here. So I would say 30 something years. I was born here at the farmhouse and after 67, so I've been driving the truck since I was about 10 years old. How do you support one another in your community of farmers? In our community, if another farmer has a breakdown or a problem, help each other by moving equipment or helping each other.
Unfortunately, the wind was a little rough that day, so the audio it wouldn't have worked. But when Katie talked to her father, you know, and she said, "Why are we making this video?" And she said, "Well, it's just because we want all the students in the district to feel welcome to go to school and feel supported."
Okay, next, our last example here. A couple of years ago, our Board of Education heard a presentation actually from Mr. McKenna and a couple of representatives from the Special Olympics who came in to present. Actually, one was from Special Olympics, one was from Unified Sports. They came and they gave a presentation on Unified Sports here at the board meeting. And before the board meeting was over, the Board of Education decided to take action that evening and create a unified sports program for our school, because the board understood the inclusiveness of that unified sports program and what the possibilities were for that particular program. So as a quick fast forward to where we are today, this year we have the program up and running. We have a unified basketball program. You're going to hear from a couple students, and then you're going to see one more piece right at the end. So we can play them in succession, if you would, please.
My name is Brandon.
Brandon, what do you like about unified basketball?
I like to play with my teammates.
And what have you learned from this experience?
I learned how to get the ball.
Very good, buddy.
I'm Wyatt Cooper. I'm a coach in the unified basketball team.
Hi, Wyatt. Why did you decide to join the unified basketball team?
Because I play basketball for the school, and I love the sport, and I feel like it would be a great opportunity to help coach.
Awesome. What have been your highlights of the season?
Definitely working with the students and the dance battle has been really fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just pause for 1 minute. Okay? You know, a couple of the things that I've heard reported from the Unified Basketball Program has nothing to do with the basketball itself. I'll give you just a couple quick examples. One of them was a student saying, "I never thought they could never imagine being on a bus going to a school to represent their school playing a sport." And I just thought how incredible for students. For as someone who was a former student, you know, probably took that for granted, getting on a bus to go participate and represent the high school that I played at. For students to recognize that that was just such an incredible thing, and they couldn't believe that they were having an opportunity to do that, I thought was really cool. The other one was this. You're going to see this video in a minute, but a father posted this on the community page. I ended up tracking him down and said, "Could you send the video?" in my phone conversation, his comment was, this is what sports should be. That, you know, he has, he's had children who played at all different levels of sports, and this to him represented what sports were to begin with, and how fun and inclusive. And so it was it's a pretty neat video. Just to set this up, this is at halftime, and I believe it started as an impromptu dance off, which it's my understanding that this is continued.
Yeah, I coach the unified team. To kind of jump on what Dan said, it's been amazing. My students who their world is my classroom, my counterpart Nicole's classroom, and that's really it within the high school. They have difficulty accessing all the other components that high school has. We offer sports, we lead, but it's scary, it's overwhelming. So this became this amazing safe haven where now they've branched out and have all these friends, and within 4 weeks, they have group texts, they have messengers, they are making TikToks together. And my class turned from to boisterous, out of control, kids in and out of my door constantly talking, I gotta see Brandon, he's gotta come out, we gotta do it, okay. It's working. It is the intent of inclusion, it is the purpose of what we're doing here. It's bringing students together to build something bigger. So we went to a game out in Newfane, and they said, oh, we do the cha-cha slide. Do you mind at halftime? I was like, no, we'll dance, let's do it. And then as we were doing it, our athlete said, well, that just can't be all. Let's do something else. Let's challenge them to a dance battle. So dance battles have become a part of the NW Falcon Way now at Unified Basketball Games. And this is them just being their truest, authentic selves, having the time of their life, inviting the other team to be a part of it. And it is the most amazing thing to watch. So enjoy.
One of the really neat things about watching the game in action was, I think one of the only sports I've been at where, regardless of what team scores, people are cheering, and you know, there's no booze. It's a pretty neat thing. So you know, that's I think a really great example of how we've created some inclusivity here in our district, and kudos to the student coaches and the faculty coaches who have really taken this on and led the way here. It's a pretty neat thing. A really nice tradition, I think, that we've started. Very cool. That's it, right? Questions?
Let me just touch on unified sports. I have a friend played basketball through school, and after he graduated, he went to work and he reffed.
all through Western New York as far as high school and college basketball. And I run into him the other day, unfortunately, at a funeral parlor, and we were asking what he was doing, and he's refereeing unified sports. And he says, Rick, that is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. He goes, I'm upset it wasn't earlier. It's the most rewarding thing he's ever done.
What else?
I just have some questions on fairness work. That a lot of this is appreciated. Anytime you can open up communication, dialogue with people, and have a place where they can raise concerns that they have is always good. Can you just talk a little bit more about what district plan is? I know there's a couple bullet points on the slides about looking at curriculum, recommendations that would come with that, and who would be involved. And
sure.
what that actually look like.
Is this still on? Okay. Good question. You know, one of the ideas is to really, I think the first step would be this. Let's see what we have. You know, what's in our current curriculum. Let's do a review. What books, what selections do we have for our different impact groups, and then we would go from there. We do have, starting next year, a curriculum council that, you know, like new texts and that sort of thing would go through and proceed through. So there you go.
Dan, one of the things, are you done? One of the things that they mentioned, with some people were being not humiliated, but you know what I mean?
Mistreated.
What?
Mistreated.
Mistreated.
Sure.
Whatever group they were in. Now, what they're finding is through, you know, they requested, where do you think it, from the parents and from the kids? Do we know what we can do to stop something like that? Or is it too early to make that decision?
Well, great question. And there's clear, right? There's not one answer to that. There's so many. And you know what? But let me start by saying this. School districts, and anybody who's anywhere near my age will know this, right? And you know, just you can guess high. Knows that years ago, you know, things like bullying and mistreatment in schools happened, and very often it was, depending on who you talk to, it might have been suck it up. It might have been, you know, just deal with it. Today, you know, we have something called the Dignity for All Students Act. Even before that act was in place, you know, school districts investigate everything that comes their way. So we're more involved on the after side than we ever have been. All schools have character education programs, you know, to go by different names in different schools. You know, I'll give you an example, middle school, it's called WEB, right? Where everybody belongs. The goal is there to early on inculcate all students into a place where it's going to be a welcome culture. That doesn't mean for a second that some kids aren't going to be mean sometimes, right? The key, I think, is giving kids earlier the better, a better understanding of how we need to treat people, all people, right? And so, you know, in elementary schools, that looks a lot different than it does in middle schools and than it does at high school. But there's not one, if there was a magic wand, we wave it, right? And I don't think that's what you're asking. So there's many steps we could take. And I think, you know, that one slide, could you go back, please, to the slide that started with the subgroup slide? Keep going a little bit further. There was the one student quote, keep going. The whole slide is black, dark blue in color there. Thank you. The last line of that to me says everything. Thank you for caring. Making sure that all of our kids know that they're respected by their school and by the environment. So so they feel first confident coming, so that staying home isn't the option. You know, it's empowering them to know that when they go and they talk to a teacher and administrator, that something's going to be done, that they have a caring, compassionate ear. You know, I think that's a big part of this. And again, I think we do a lot of this really well, but I think we can do better.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on for a long time. Okay, so I guess the question is, or the opportunity from when I hear from other parents who reach out to different board members, is can we correct a number of these problems, especially with the poor and, you know, things Marissa Vincenzo was talking about, without infringing or making other people who aren't in these other groups uncomfortable? I think that's,
of course,
I don't know if anyone has the answer, but we don't want to help someone here and make other people uncomfortable at the same time.
Sure. Good question. I think it's a common question, right?
Yeah.
And it comes, I think often we can complicate it. I think it's simple. We treat everyone with respect, show them that they're valued all the time. Everyone.
Yeah.
So, you know, any group that, and you know, any group that would feel bad about other groups being respected, I don't know how to fix that, right? But what I would say is all groups are respected and valued. Yep.
Yeah, I just had some people who have reached out to me with their concerns of, particularly with the language of where this could potentially head based on things that are happening nationally, things even coming out of state ed as far as like critical race. These are not similar language of equity, social justice, inclusion, diversity. And if you wanted to speak anything to that.
Like what? How, I mean, what?
Well, it seems like there's certain agendas coming from New York State, and you can read them online. Like the framework for, I mean, it reads effectively like a call to action of progressive ideals that kind of has presuppositions that there's systemic racism, that it's infiltrated like every aspect of life. I know I certainly don't feel like that's the case in our Wheatfield. Sure, are there times when people are nasty or you know, inappropriate to people? Yeah, but systemically, is that something like? Do you feel that is the case here?
No, as a matter, I don't feel like I feel like we have a lot of really great kids and a lot of really great people here.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just kind of touching on Rick's point, you know, not forgetting about, you know, as we kind of give attention to the first impact groups, you know, to think also about, you know, how that plays in with the greater whole. And I was reading this, there's a Gallup poll that said 77% of conservatives are afraid to share their beliefs publicly. They're worried about getting mobbed on social media, fired from their jobs, or worse, and they often remain quiet. So I know this area tends to be, you know, fairly conservative, you know, compared to the rest of the country. I don't know how that plays out in school here, if people feel like any of their traditional conservative understandings of things are under assault, and if there's sensitivity in the district to be aware of that. And to,
I think it gets back to all people, right? It's again, I know that I understand the political world fairly well, okay, as well. I think there's been this culture created that tries to muddy everything. And to me, in school, it's simple. Every single parent expects that when their child steps off the bus or gets out of their car, thank you so many parents for driving this year, that they walk into our school and they're respected and that they're valued. Simple. No matter where they come from, no matter who they are. every single one of them. And I think, you know, people can get caught up in everything that's political. Here, public education, we have a responsibility to take care of all of them the same and treat them all really well and make sure that they all feel the same way when they're here. And we don't get that right 100% of the time. Of course not. Do I think we get it right a lot of the time? Absolutely. For all people in our district. So that's my answer.
And, I'm sorry. I just wanted to thank the group, the whole, everybody that has put in all the time and effort on this. You've only broken the ice right now. I mean, there's a long way to go. I don't know if there's a ceiling, but you're working towards it. I've spent 32 years in that public education, so I know what you walk through. I know what comes in the door every day. To counter Mr. Meyer's point here about the conservatism and people are afraid to announce, this is kind of where some of these students are at, where they're afraid to say who they are for being censored, to being social media bullied and such. And they need a safe outlet to, you know, find that person to talk to help them, to get them to the next hurdle. It's our job to educate kids as a whole. And it's not just about the classroom and the academics here. We have to teach to the test. We have to, we want them to succeed academically, athletically through the district, but it's part of the whole child to get them where they're supposed to be. So again, just to recap, just like to thank the group for, I say, in my opinion, just breaking the ice and just got to move forward from here.
And thank you for mentioning that, because I know we have some of the other members of the committee that are in the audience. Could you say it? I know we have a few other committee members. Oh, I'm sorry. We had a few other committee members who were in the audience tonight. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Right, and what I was gonna ask, the mobile dental and eye, how is that working? Sounds like a good idea, and I agree with you, Dan. These students need to come in here and not worry about nothing but math, arithmetic, English, and whatever they're else doing. But how is the mobile clinics working?
I give a ton of credit to Mrs. Vuich, Colonial Village, who really looked at this, particularly for her building to start, and now it looks like it's going to grow a little bit. So
to answer your question, it was going fantastic, and then there was a worldwide pandemic. Which, oh, sorry. Okay. It was going really, really well, and then there was a worldwide pandemic, and everything kind of stopped. So we were 2 weeks away from bringing the mobile dental unit to our school on a monthly basis. We are looking to do that starting again in September. So they have agreed, once we have our site up and running, that they'd be willing to look at a centralized location to offer those services to anybody in the district that would like to participate in that. The mobile medic unit, we were right there. We were right there. So we were right about to start all of these amazing, well, see our work, you know, come to fruition, I should say. And we're looking at the same timeline for them. And as soon as we have a timeline in place for Colonial Village, because all of the initial paperwork and documentation was already submitted to our school, we can then look towards the other schools. And of course, that's completely voluntary. The benefit of that is for a lot of families that struggle with insurance. There are multiple grants pay for those services for students if families are unable to access insurance. Another major benefit of bringing that to the schools and to the district is that a lot of families, as we referenced earlier, struggle with transportation. So it's just taking down some barriers for families, one less thing for them to worry about.
Well, thank you, Marcia. It was a great idea, and looking forward to starting it back up in September. And I want to thank everyone, all the committees and everyone involved for the work that's been done for the last 12 months.
Other questions?
All right, at this point, then I will say we'll move on to the roadmap for return presentation then.
So I'm going to apologize, everybody, because you're going to have to just hear me this time. Okay. Yeah. Well, it won't be very long. But let me just set this up very quickly. So since the pandemic started, really almost since the very beginning, the superintendents in Orleans, Niagara, BOCES have been meeting weekly, and we've been doing that through Zoom. to stay on top of, as all of you know, the changes that have come our way throughout the pandemic. And we put together what we're calling, in essence, our path to reopening. Because in the end, what we believe is that come September, all students should be in school 5 days a week. We do not want to offer virtual programming. We know that the students who are struggling the most are the students who are part of the virtual program. Okay. So our goal is to get every kid here 5 days a week. And here's what's really great. We know we can do it. As a district, we've had our elementary students here every day, almost since the very beginning. We know that in our elementaries or high schools throughout the pandemic, that we believe maybe there was one case in which COVID was passed from one person to another, and that was in a lunchroom setting with adults. Okay, so all of the things that we've done to mitigate this have worked in schools. You've probably heard many health directors, but you know, we live in Niagara County, so Mr. Dan Stapleton talked numerous times that the schools, they're not the places where the spreading is occurring. Remember, they've done all the contact tracing, and it's not where, you know, one student's giving it to the next. It's just not happening that way in schools, and it hasn't been. So go to the next slide. I mentioned this already. The goal is to be here in person. Why? We believe clearly that's the most effective way to learn. One of the things that I just am amazed at is the work that our kindergarten, first, second grade teachers have had to do and have done with students who are virtual. I can't imagine trying to teach somebody how to read over a computer, especially when they're struggling with all the technology, right? So clearly we want them all back. The good news is this: the numbers are incredibly low in our county. They're nowhere near the 100 per 100,000 that would put us back out again. As of right now, the requirement is at least 3 feet of social distancing, right? We know we can do that. As a matter of fact, that's about how far apart our desks are normally. Next. As far as vaccines, you know, this was one of the hurdles that we heard about. And in the state, we're now, you just heard, at 70%, right? There's ample supply. If there's a need to re-administer, if there's a booster shot, schools and the community would reopen. We'll make sure that we have spots for people to get those. Again, number one goal, 5 days a week, all of our kids are here. Next. If necessary, we don't know where we'll be in September. I don't want to pretend to know, but we know that we can follow the guidelines and make it work with all of our kids here. We'll continue to clean, sanitize as much as we need to. Temperature screenings, it's a simple thing for us. If we have to continue to do it, we will. We can continue to screen all of our guests. They can answer questions. They can be temperature scanned. We can do it. We want all of our kids here. If we have to use isolation rooms, we'll do that. I mean, these are all things that were hurdles for us as this happened. We can do all of it and will. We'll comply with the ventilation requirements. For those that don't know, we worked with our architects and our some of our different consultants, subcontractors, to make sure that our ventilation was adequate. We've made sure that we have the appropriate internet access for families. We provided PPE where it was needed. We gave out masks at the beginning of the year. Obviously masks exploded as a business, so everybody kind of came in with their own. This is a pretty nice one, right? I have to wear one. We will continue to monitor community group use. So if for any reason there's an uptick, we'll just pull back on community groups being in our buildings. But we don't want to pull back on our kids being in our buildings, because we know we can have them all here. continue with regular communication with the local health department. I failed to mention this. Whenever I said the Orleans Niagara superintendents all meet once a week, it's Tuesday, every Tuesday at 1:45. That meeting always starts with a representative, and almost always the director of health for Niagara County on that call at 1:45. If in the rare instances he couldn't be there, he had somebody else as a representative. So we were always in constant contact with health department. All of us have those members on speed dial. So again, if there's an uptick, we have people to communicate with right away, to work with, to make sure that we can keep going. By the way, I said the ON superintendent supported this. These are all things that we've talked about with our health director as well. We've done it before. We provided COVID-19 testing. If for some reason there was up, we could do that again. Again, these are things we don't want to do, but we're saying we can do. We can live stream athletic contests and special events. If for some reason we had to pull back on those things again, the goal making sure that everybody here is here 5 days a week and being educated. Effectively transition to remote learning. We now never wanted to be able to do it, but now if we know that in 2 days we need to be out, our teachers have done an incredible job of being ready for that. And we've had schools that have, at all levels, who've had to go in and out. Maybe it was for a 10-day quarantine, right? Maybe it was just one class at the elementary level, but we can do it. And then the last thing, we follow all restrictions and quarantine guidance as required, if we need to. Again, starting out with if necessary. So again, goal, every child in school 5 days per week next year is our goal. And I think that's it, right? Questions?
Is there any inkling whatsoever that the governor would be using the continued school mask mandate as a bargaining chip to ever mandate vaccine, which would be probably the greatest fear of many people?
I don't know that, but that would be trying to read into the mind of someone. Yeah. No, I haven't heard anything. I haven't, but what I would say, I think the part of that. Let me create this question. What do I believe is going to happen with masks, right? I would be very surprised at this point with the numbers if in September it's still a mandate. I know that the state pushed the CDC, as I think everybody heard a couple weeks ago, to give an answer about it, and they were no longer required outside at school and during school, events and stuff. Still required inside. I think the bigger question is, will it change at all for summer school? Will that mandate change? I heard that there might be another press conference coming up. I don't want to assume that that's what it's going to be about, but people tend to do a lot of guessing, and I prefer not to. What else?
I just say, if we could read the governor's mind, we would not have be waiting for a budget every single year trying to figure out funding. It's if anything, and I'll say this, I don't think masks are what his bargaining chip is. It's going to be financial districts when it comes down to anything with the vaccine. You look in the past, whenever there's been a vaccine issue, and that was religious exemption, it always came down to financial bargaining chips. So I don't think masks will fall into that category with his upcoming. I don't know if you have a fireworks display every night, but any other decision he makes.
Other questions?
What do you mean, Steve? He might say for money.
I mean, when it comes to budget time, they're going to say if you can so many. I wouldn't put it past them to say if you have X number of population years, you may have this much more in bullet aid or some other kind of financial windfall. We just saw it with them doing that with the lottery for college scholarship.
We have a big decision to make because there's a lot of parents out there that
Oh, I
don't
know,
wanna
but
be
the thing is,
mandated to get vaccines.
I don't think it's gonna be at the district level decision. It's gonna be at the state decision. What I'm saying, my money wise like that, I'm talking between the assembly legislatures and him, not us at our level. It's the Albany soap opera you're gonna watch when they reconvene their next session.
And if I could just add one thing, I think one of the, for our state, with regard to looking at it in that lens, right, is that 70% was a number early on that the CDC had put out, that if you got to 70% that you were at herd immunity. And so, I think reaching that number is why all of a sudden you saw a lot of the different things lifted. The question is how much more and when for schools. Well, one of the really interesting things for schools that I would mention just with masks, and I don't know, I don't want to pretend to know the thinking of the governor or the health department, who don't often seem to be necessarily on the same page, right? So, but don't forget, in our district, what we did is we gave every family the opportunity each quarter to choose whether or not they wanted to be here. And we told them that here are the guidelines that we're living by, and that we'll continue to live by the guidelines of the state. I certainly know that there are families out there who said, okay, I'm sending them back because the numbers have gone down. They're still wearing masks. So that's why I'm sending them. We know we have pockets in our community who don't want masks now at all. Some who never did, right? And some who feel more comfortable now. All along, and I think this is so important. And I think a lot of people are in this place, but not all, and that's okay too. Everyone's been in a different place with this. We know that. We know that there have been people from the beginning who felt like, oh my goodness, I need to go into lockdown mode. And in many cases, probably for really good reasons. Okay. And on the other end, there were people who said, I'm really healthy. I don't think this is going to apply to me. And I think I'll be okay. And then you have a lot of people in the middle who were saying, okay, this is really bad now, but it's better. And now, good, let's start shedding the masks. And some would say, we're doing it at the perfect pace. And some would say it's not quick enough. But those are all our people, right? And from the beginning, I decided really early on, it wasn't my job to judge any of them, right? Our job was to make sure that we could bring kids here safely, the best that we could, to make sure that they get the best education that they could. And so it is interesting a little bit with the mask piece. Now, again, I don't know, but we will continue to follow the guidance of the CDC, okay, and of our state. And I do that because I'm not a I'm not a health professional or a mental health professional. Right? I don't work for the CDC. I know way more about infectious disease today than I knew a year ago, right? 15 months ago, like all of us. But I'm not an infectious disease specialist. So I'll listen to those people who are. So, whatever they do, we'll do. But I do understand that there's certainly segments in our population who have said, I sent them back fourth quarter thinking, hey, we're going to finish with masks. Now, that said, nobody thought the bottom was going to drop out, I don't think, as quickly as it did, which was great. So those are kind of some of my follow-ups.
With the virtual and in person, I thought the school district handled the best we could. I really thought your team did an excellent job. But we also learned from the last year. And some of the things that are concerning me with the masks is like, even in your presentation, we realize virtual is definitely not as good as in person. You see the numbers with the tests. So there are some kids who need to get in here, who want to get in here, but for health reasons, and there's many, uncomfortable, they can't wear a mask, it's hard to breathe. So it's like a double-edged sword. What do we do? Let's hope Como makes the right decision and eliminates the discussion. But if it don't, come September or come summer school, I know it's in the fall, so I don't know what jurisdiction we have over there, but what do we do with a child who needs to be in, and we have the statistics to show he or she needs to be in, but can't breathe with a mask? And the breaks, but I know we allow breaks, which is a good thing. But when you have asthma or you have other health issues, them breaks are just too far apart. Can we do something if?
So, yeah, so good question. You know, we have, if there's a medical need, you know, assuming, I think we're getting to the, you know, fall, I think is what you're talking about. I don't know what they'll do, if he's gonna do anything in the summer. But for a student who doesn't, the accommodation this year has been online instruction, right? We also have, and this is really the more typical, because every year we have students who can't come for different medical reasons, right, to school. So they end up in like what's called home hospital instruction. And that, there's a BOCES tutor who works with those students and helps educate them, and they're certified teachers. So that, Rick, will be the answer to that. If we get there, I don't know if we will.
Actually, just to kind of piggyback on that, I know we went back and forth a little bit, and you mentioned that you are one who, you know, wants to follow the rules and the guidance, and the piece of guidance straight from state ed recommendations in the context of in-person, it stipulates students who are unable to medically tolerate a mask, including students where such mask would impair their physical health or mental health, are not subject to the required use of a mask. And I feel like we haven't been upholding that.
So let me share with you. I know I shared this answer with you in a text, but I'm glad you asked it publicly. The language there is that we needed to accommodate, okay? And our accommodation was the virtual program. And I'll tell you, when all this language came out, you know, back in August, it was very clear from our health director, okay, that we should not allow students in school unmasked. That, and what's interesting is at that time we were allowed to give mask breaks, and he supported that. Right now, the new guidance that came out didn't have the net mask breaks that were in there. We left it in there. But to answer your question, the accommodation that we needed to accommodate those students, the accommodation was the virtual program.
Well, I mean, that's not even language. This is a document from June 7th, right after they did the full bait and switch about it.
Sure.
So fully updated, and that's, I mean, almost what you're saying is like antithetical to how
Yeah,
reads
it's combined. It's a pretty long document, right? So
I mean, this one's not too long. It's like this one's 20-some pages. But it breaks up in sections. And, I mean, I don't know how you would actually interpret what I read. I can read it
because I didn't read just the one part that you read. There's a part, and I shared it with you, that talks about the accommodations, and that's the piece that.
But I mean, this one, I mean, to me, it's clear as day.
Yep.
And you see it implemented other places. You go, you know, it's changed now, but you go walk into Walmart unmasked. They say, "Hey, would you like a mask?" And you can say, "No, I have a medical condition. Have a nice day."
Sure.
And I feel like that's the sentiment of that stipulation.
Yeah, and
I don't know why we're.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but the schools are expected to live under a separate set of.
Well, I'm saying this is the
rules. Yeah.
guidance given straight to the school from Department of Health.
Sure. I read the whole thing many times.
Well, I guess I don't see the logic of how.
So did you read the whole thing?
I did read it.
So we're interpreting it different than the superintendent.
And that's why I'm asking, because it seems nonsensical.
So our director of health's interpretation of it is that we should be having students at
Absolutely.
our accommodation piece.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, if you take the language, I mean, I don't know how you get around it. I don't think I'm an idiot.
So I know you're not calling me one by saying that.
No,
feel
I'm not
differently.
saying that.
It may have sounded like that, but I'm guessing that's not what you meant.
I mean, you just look for the clear interpretation of what it is. I mean, Lancaster had 2 kids pass out and they're being sued.
Yeah. Now, you know, and you know that there's 2 different documents, right?
Well, I'm just reading this.
No, yeah, there's one from
I
9.
guess they're contradictory.
I don't feel that way, but there's 2 different documents. One is the NICEA document, and the other one is that one that was put up by the New York State Department of Health. So there's two different documents. And I think you need to read both because we have to live by both.
And so there's some sort of language in there that would say the complete opposite. So if a student is being physically or mentally
No.
impaired, that we just need to, sorry, just roll with it. Like,
No, it doesn't say that at all. As I would imagine, would be worded that way.
I mean, I encourage you to look it over. I don't understand how, I guess we could have that liability of somebody saying, I can't physically or mentally tolerate this thing. And we don't have an answer for them other than, sorry, like, you still have to wear a mask. I know you mentioned virtual, but I mean, they've been in school the whole time and now it's a hot day and the asthma like kicks in. Like, what's the recourse?
Well, I don't know, you mentioned another school, I don't know what they did in that school. I know that our teachers have given, extra mask breaks when they needed and,
I mean, the plain language of is not required.
Sure, I heard you.
Fair enough.
Yep.
So I just want to say, I think our district has done a phenomenal job accommodating everybody. I know we had to kind of draw some lines in the sand to, keep clarity for things. If you, as a parent, I have 2 children in this district. If I felt that it was too hot or they weren't going to do well, I have the choice to keep them home. Right, and I think, again, we've made accommodations for this complete virtual program. So if you were totally anti-mask, that was your choice. And like Dan said, we all kind of fell in different areas throughout the last 15 months. Some of us were really scared. Some of us didn't believe it. Some of us fell in the gray area. And I can't imagine the work that has gone into trying to figure out a way to accommodate every single person in this district. We all have our beliefs, but the numbers show that masks work in school. Our kids have not been getting COVID in this school.
There's multiple opinions on it.
Well, I'm telling you mine. So I've listened to you say yours about multiple things tonight. I'm telling you how I feel. My kids have gone, we've had no issues. They've felt safe. They don't even complain about the mask. They don't even care about the mask. I feel like it's parents that care about the mask. They just want to be at school. They want to be like with their people learning and being kids. Like I respect everybody's position. I want you all to understand it. I truly 100% do. But I think we have to do what's best and what we're being directed to by the Department of Health.
Yeah, and the beginning of her statement, I agree. I've been very vocal, like other board members, say what an excellent job you and this team have done with decisions changing weekly and monthly. So as we hope we're winding down, the question, and you can't answer, is if we eliminate the virtual, but still wear a mask, if Como says that, people with health problems should be able to get some type of health care. That's what I'm at. I'm not, you can't change, or the district, Como saying you're wearing masks. That's a state law. We can't change it. And we change a bunch of stuff for this year. But if he says you have to wear a mask, but we don't have the opportunity for virtual, based on what you said earlier, virtual is not as good as in class. And 2, the health department says it's not spreading through the schools based on your presentation. Would there be and it's a unfair question, would there be an outlet for someone with medical problems? Is my concern.
Yeah, and I share.
Yeah.
Right? That we've had a history, a long history of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every district does. Yeah.
Is that something you'd approach on an individual basis?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
basically, again, I'm with Julie. This district has done a phenomenal job this year with everything that we've had a grade school all year long. I mean, we've done things that other districts didn't even think of. Okay, so I know there's people that want certain things for themselves. I get it. I mean, everybody wants what for their own kids or whatever.
But you gotta look at the whole picture. And the whole picture is this district has done a phenomenal job over this past year. And going forward, yeah, there's still uncertainties. That's something that's gonna have to be addressed as we go along. The answers aren't here today, and they probably won't be here tomorrow. But down the road, there's some decisions will be have to make where we go in that direction. And to me, I mean, we can sit here and talk about this and that, but the bottom line comes down to our kids getting the best education we can give them with what we have at our hands at hand. So hands off to this administration and parents and teachers and everybody that helped make it this pretty successful year in my eyes anyways. But like I say, going forward, yeah, we can nitpick, but the bottom line is we're doing this for our kids and it's the whole picture. Individuals who need to be addressed, I get it, we gotta address them. But going forward, it has to be the whole picture.
Yeah, and in raising my point, not to take anything away, we've been handed a Delta cards this year that were very tough to play, and I think he did very well. I just see this issue, you know, the language here. I mean, if there is a way to be law-abiding, rule-following, and still accommodate people who are very, very much, you know, feel their health is in jeopardy, their mental health, physical health. That if the language is there, like, let's take it. I don't know if you want to reconsider, or if you have other material that I'm not privy to that would contradict what the plain language is there. You know, all ears if you have something. Otherwise, I would very much encourage you to reconsider.
I hear you.
And Dan, no one's putting no heat on you.
I don't feel it.
Okay. This discussion must be throughout Western New York.
Oh,
and the school.
it's throughout Western New York, it's throughout the state, of course. You know, here's what's really interesting, right? I mean, we sat in a particular place for a pretty long time with very little change, and very little change in the numbers, and the numbers bottomed out very quickly. And I think we've seen a lot of change. As a matter of fact, even with, like, you know, graduation celebrations over the last 3 days, 3 different documents have come out that affect different types of celebrations, right? So that's how quick the change is coming at this point. So when is there going to be, you know, an action on masks inside schools? I think that's probably the next big one, right? It's clear for those who listened to the press conference the other day from the governor that talked about a lot of things, and it covered schools in about a half a second, right? Schools will continue to follow CDC guidance. And that was it. Even though there were some things, interestingly enough, that were already happening with regard to end of the year celebrations that were being sent out by the New York State Department of Health, the New York State Council for School Superintendents, who got the information from the governor's office, the New York State School Boards Association, who got information from the governor's office, but none of that stuff was addressed. So I guess my point is, you know, that the change is, I think, pretty rapid right now. So we'll see what the next change is. Anything else? No. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stack, do me a favor. I think there's a couple other people that signed up on one of the sign-up sheets back there for Village of the Floor. Do you grab those sheets? And we will move on to the privilege of the floor at this time then for residents' comments. Just remember that this portion of the agenda provides for an opportunity for the residents in the Greenfield Central School District to be heard. Any person who wishes to address the board is invited to do so at this time. Please state your name and address. Complaints or criticisms about individual school personnel are not appropriate in this forum and will not be allowed. The board may not respond. They should be referred to the superintendent of schools at another time. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. I'm going to go in the order that people just put on here. So of the sheets, I may have mixed these 2 sheets up. So Michael, Marin, and Mary Crooks, if you signed up first.
Let me help you hold up 1 second. You got it? Thank you.
My name is Michael, and I'm third grade. When I go to school, I'm only there for less than 20 minutes, and my mask is uncomfortable and it stinks. The thought of my friends in school wearing them makes me sad. I think about the teachers not being able to hear the students, and my friends getting hot in their masks and having a hard time breathing. So I wanted to come and speak up for them. Masks are doing no good because they are a distraction. Masks are supposed to protect us, but the virus is so small, there is no way masks can stop it. I did virtual school this year, which I was excited at first because I thought no bus ride would mean later bedtime. But then I realized I wouldn't be able to see my friends or my teachers in person. The screen time for school year sometimes gives me a headache. The school year was different and not good different, it was bad. I want to take masks off kids for school.
Oh, go ahead. Hold on one second.
My name is Mary and I'm My name is Marin and I am in first grade. I was excited to go to first grade, but I wanted to be in person. But we had to do online school because of masks. My family did not want me to wear a mask because we don't believe they keep us healthy. You can still get sick wearing a mask. Masks make it hard to breathe. I like doing school online and getting to take breaks, but I would have liked to be in school where I got more learning time. I missed out on time in school with my teachers and learning time. I missed out. I think I could have learned more in school without a mask. I think we should take off the masks off kids.
And then I'm their mother, Mary. So we are at 7611 Sunnydale Drive. And we are the Crooks. And I just wanted to read something before I read what I've actually written. This is really my sentiment and why my kids stayed home. The kids did great wearing masks all day. Say kids started running into each other in the hallways and getting injured. So we had students walk backwards through the hallways. Even though it wasn't comfortable and now it's best for kids, but they walk slower when backwards to avoid injury of others, and the teachers will have them hold a rope to guide the students. Everyone says the kids are doing great and not complaining about walking backwards. But does that mean we should just get used to walking backwards? Or do we do everything we can to find solutions to get the kids walking forward again, to do what's natural, comfortable, and best for them? I know I don't want my kids walking backwards through school or through life. And then I just wanted to read what I actually emailed to each of you this week. And I wanted to start with a quote from Brene Brown. Courage is contagious. Every time we choose courage, we make everyone around us a little better and the world a little braver. My name is Mary Crooks and I'm a mother of 4, and I'm here to ask you that each of you do everything within your power to remove the mask mandates in our school for the 2021-2022 school year. I'm asking you to question the Niagara County Department of Health, the New York Department of Health, and Governor Cuomo's office on the science behind masking our least vulnerable population. We've known for some time that our students face a near zero statistical risk from SARS-CoV-2 and that they are not the primary source of transmission. Again, I urge you to ask for the science regarding this. How many student super spreaders have there been? If such a super spreader event has not occurred, then what science are we following in regard to masking our children? We've failed our students by not questioning sooner the unrestrained executive orders given by Governor Cuomo with the support of the New York State Education Department and the American Federation of Teachers in regard to our children. Receiving or utilizing any medical intervention should be a personal choice and not a mandate. These imprudent mitigation strategies have hurt our children by covering their faces, by keeping them apart, and by instilling in them fear that they could be to blame for killing someone if they do not conform to the arbitrary rules regarding masks. We have told them every day of this school year that they are the problem. I implore each of you to consider the social, emotional damage done to our students in such a short period of time. We have robbed them of seeing the facial expressions of their teachers and peers. These facial cues play a crucial role in social emotional development, in understanding the feelings of others, and recognizing when a topic is serious or silly. We have also crippled teachers in their ability to read the nonverbal cues of a child that is sad, scared, excited, or confused. I solicit you to appraise the burden of a year delay in speech developments for students who have been unable to see how the mouth of their teacher or peers form letter sounds. How many speech concerns that could have been identified by classroom teachers were missed this year? Our youngest students are missing critical signals for language development due to mask wearing. For safety's sake, we must unmask our kids. Please take a moment to think about the chemicals in or on the mask, as well as the process used to sanitize them for reuse. These chemicals should not be drawn into the lungs of any adult or child with every breath they take for the duration of a school day. It is time to stop pretending that science supports a mask as a safe filtration system for our lungs. On the topic of safety, how is it that wearing a costume mask on Halloween is unsafe because it can hide one's identity? But we've demonstrated to children for a year that masked adults are safe and should be trusted. This should make every one of you shudder to realize that you have demonstrated to children regarding how they make safe choices. To those taking note, it's clear that this year and the many mandates and recommendations have been a successful ploy to reimagine our social culture. I hold every school administrator, board member, Department of Health, both local and state member, FTA member, and state legislator accountable for being complicit in our children being used as pawns in this reimagining. I do not doubt the well intentions of any of you, but the evidence is clear that our students are being hurt by our submission to mask mandates, and the science in support of masks simply doesn't exist. Therefore, I beseech you to stand up for our students, be leaders, join us in teaching our students another lesson, that we can learn from our mistakes and that it's never too late to make the right choice. This week, my daughter received the Falcons Pride Award. Pride stands for pride, responsibility, integrity, determination, and enthusiasm. I ask each of you tonight to do what we ask our students and hope that our students will do every day and exhibit Falcon Pride.
Next we have James Fuji, thank you, and Monica Fuji.
Thank you, Mr. Stack.
Hello members of the board. My name is James Fuji and I am a second grade student at West Street School. This year I am a virtual student because of masks. Why do we have to wear masks in school when we don't have to wear them at other places. I go to stores like Walmart and Target and see lots of people not wearing masks. But in school, kids are still wearing masks. Why? My school year has been sad at lunch at school. I could see my friends, and now I just eat lunch at home with my family. It's hard to see some of my friends since I'm not at school, and when I do, it's hard to talk or play because masks and having to stay apart. I miss seeing my teachers in person. I miss being able to do centers in my classroom and other fun activities. I liked riding the bus with my friends, but this year I'm doing virtual because I don't want to wear a mask. Wearing a mask for hours makes me sweaty and it hurts my ears. Wearing a mask all day would be uncomfortable and make it hard to learn. We have had viruses before and never wore masks. So why do we need them now? I have a voice, give me a choice.
Monica Bucci, 7741 3rd Avenue. Regardless of the current social trends and what is accepted, we as parents need to be willing to fight with fierceness for what is right, giving parents and students the choice to mask or not. It's the only fair solution. I'm tired of hearing phrases like the kids have adjusted well when I know better. Masking children has caused them anxiety as well as a number of social and emotional issues. Children are being taught that there's something wrong with them when there isn't. You can't be around so-and-so because you could get them sick. Perfectly healthy children being made to feel like they're the problem. Let's talk about young children in their critical years in development who are missing out on important cues from their teachers simply because they can't see their faces. And not just things like how to form letter sounds, but things like emotions. Something as simple as smiling. When two people smile at each other, it releases chemicals in their bodies that make them both feel happy and safe. Why aren't these things a topic of discussion? Now's the time to stand up and advocate for the students in our district. Our children have been ignored because they are the easiest group to ignore. And I am not okay with that.
Taylor Grady.
Taylor Grady, 6901 Lowell Road. My two kids have been in school since day one. Bear with me, this is a little difficult for me. We dealt with the masks, but lately they've been coming home and they're very upset. And I'm very thankful your kids have adjusted well, but my kids have not. My daughter is in 5th grade, my son's in 1st grade. Thankfully, we have a phenomenal principal that understands where we come from. But my biggest thing is, I had to put my daughter in counseling this year because it was such a difficult year for her with the whole mess and trying to learn. I didn't have luxury to do virtual with my kids. I work full time. My husband works full time. My biggest issue is now is listening to you guys tonight say about, you know, what we're doing right with Niagara County and whatnot. My question is, how did Pioneer stand up for their students and do what they did? But our district has not. I've been supported from day one with our district. I took my kids and got them tested when we needed students to get tested. And yes, Mr. Stack actually called me because my two were 2 positive cases in our school, which was odd because they perfectly felt fine. But my thing is, you know, you're saying we have to follow these rules and do all this, but you see other districts, such Pioneer, stand up and take the masks off these kids and everything. My kids just want to go and be with their friends and not have to worry about, put your mask up, your mask isn't over your nose, things like that. I did not like getting a zillion emails from my daughter's teacher saying, she needs a new mask, her mask isn't up her nose. I was more worried about her being behind in reading than the mask. And I feel like that was neglected with what she's doing in school. It was all focused on the mask. So my thing is, as a district, and listening to you guys all talk, is we need to stand up and show Niagara County that Wheatfield is the best school around and is willing to stand up for our kids and drop the mask now. Thank you.
Marcy Rickner.
Hi, my name is Marcy Rickner, 3601 Crestview Lane. I couldn't hear a thing. I'm hoping you put the whole thing online with the survey also, the questions and the answers. So it will be online then?
Yeah, all the stuff that you see, like any projected is posted up on there.
Okay. When will that be online?
Usually it's the next day.
Usually the next day.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yeah,
Okay.
usually the whole video will be up there as well, like, this whole meeting.
Okay. The first slide said equity and education. What does that mean? That the speakers are talking about equity and education? Anybody explain what they're talking about? I couldn't read the slides.
So, first, I think it's important to note that during the public comment period, we don't respond back, but I'll certainly
I
send
know
you
that.
something. But that, and I get it that you didn't hear the stuff. So two things. One thing that I'll do, you'll give me a call, okay? If you watch the video and you don't hear it, give me a call and I'll happy to walk you through it. Okay.
Okay. And I like the idea that dental van, but is that going to raise our taxes? I guess you can't answer.
When we talk, I'll be happy to, and we can actually bring that up in the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Patricia Lacombe.
My name is Patricia Lacombe. I live at 7611 Sunnydale, and those are my kids and grandkids over in that corner. And I want to mention that at least two of the women that stood up to speak are teachers by education. So they have a pretty good insight from both sides, okay? And I didn't prepare something in advance, but I was here for the whole meeting. So I just took notes and I just have a few things I just want to share, like bullet points, okay? I do want to thank and let you know that I appreciate all the teachers and the staff in Niagara Wheatfield that did work really hard this year. As a district, I just want to say, let's please be discussing these issues before a concern arises so that we know what we will do in the future to protect our kids, which has pretty much, been said. So that we know that if left to the district, that we know our district is going to respond appropriately the way that is going to take care of all of our students. In terms of accommodations, I heard an answer or you responded or said something about accommodations being virtual, which you just told us was not the best solution. So if that's the option, that's a poor option. So I don't think that can be the answer for the students that can't wear a mask or shouldn't wear a mask for whatever the reason is. And I think some people mentioned that, well, that kids adjusted, they did okay. Well, kids adjust because they're expected to. This is what they do their whole life, is adjust. They adjust to the expectations that adults place on them. So they're good at doing that. They're not gonna all, fall down on the floor and cry and whine, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a voice that if they could, if they knew how to use it. So let's just be mindful of that. And what about the kids where school is their safe place? So they don't have a choice of staying home. School's the only place they're safe for some kids. So school has to be an option for every child, whether they can wear a mask, whether they have emotional problems, no matter what their situation is, there has to at least be an option to be at school if they need it. I do want to thank Jason, I think it was, not only for some really insightful questions and information, but also because he's the only person that asked about the liability to the district when another parent from this district decides to sue us, Niagara Wheatfield, because I'm part of this community too. So we need to be aware of that. The last thing that I want to say is that I have 6 grandchildren in the Niagara Wheatfield School District. 4 of them may be moving out of New York State because their needs are not being met here in the Niagara Wheatfield School District. Thank you.
Need?
Darren Sneed, 76, Darren Sneed, 76, 73 St. Joseph Road. I'd like to start off about the mask and what the policy says as far as reasonable accommodation. I know for a fact the Adults with Disabilities Act, basically we discussed this because I'm on the council for independent living of Niagara County. And as long as you're given reasonable accommodations, right, it is not, I say, against any policy or regulation if you give them reasonable. So I know some of these families over here was talking about it's not reasonable, it's not up to par. So that's 2 different things. One is reasonable, and one is if it's, I'll say, reasonable for the individual, right? But we got to think about the whole, right? And me, I know nobody on this board is a medical profession. I could be wrong. Nobody got a medical degree or anything like that. But we fighting against the county health department, the state health department, and then the federal health department. And then me, Darren Sneed, gonna say none of that's working. Their guidance is wrong. I don't know how I can actually say that with a smile on my face or anything like that, but we got to take what the medical experts say at these different levels. We got to take that into consideration. As far as what I'll say, Pioneer, all these other school districts, we're not in those other school districts right now. And I think it's superintendent and the school board here is doing everything we can for the benefit of the whole Niagara Wheatfield School District. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Now, as far as the equity in education goes, and one of the board members said something about we might feel uncomfortable talk about certain subjects. And I think that what you was probably getting at, I think you mentioned it, you was talking about, what's it, race theory? Is that it? Critical race theory, right? Of course, that's gonna make people feel uncomfortable, right? Because it really doesn't affect the majority of Americans, right? Now, I can speak for a fact, right? There's systemic racism. Might not be in Niagara Wheatfield, right? But it is a such thing as systemic racism in the United States. And it starts a long time ago and it's still going on today. Is it getting better? Yes, it is, but it is systemic racism. I'm gonna give you an example. Where I work at, I deal with law enforcement every day. We detain people, get people arrested, they had to go testify in court. One day I had to speak to the district attorney. Got a letter, Darren, need you at district attorney's office, such time. I go into there with my suit, my briefcase, all my files dealing with this one case. And I say, I'm here to see the district attorney. Now, she didn't say why. You know what I'm saying? What she said was, who is your lawyer? Who's my lawyer? I'm here to help you out. Now, people say, what does that got to do? Somewhere in the back of her mind, thought Darren Sneed had broke some kind of law, and I got to speak to the district attorney. That's the type of systemic racism we're talking about, right? We talk about the equity, right? We talk about the gay population, we talk about the other disabled population, right? And then some people say, well, do we have to talk about that because it makes the rest of us feel uncomfortable? Sometimes you gotta have that uncomfortable conversation so everybody understands what's going on, right? We talk about curriculum, race theory might be a little something different, right? But we talk about the independence, you know what I'm saying? 4th of July, right? And then they expect everybody to be happy on the 4th of July, but in all reality, all races wasn't free on the 4th of July. That's where Juneteenth comes. Teach people about Juneteenth, teach people about Tulsa things, you know what I'm saying? Teach people about whole history. Right now we got history that talks about one side of history. Right? We do talk about slavery, we do talk about the civil rights, we do talk about different things, right? But when it comes to holistic type thing, we hear Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Okay, what happened to slaves? How did they become slaves, right? Civil rights, slavery, get over it, right? How can I get over it when we just signed the Civil Rights Act in the 60s, right? It's only been 50-some years. You want somebody to forget things that happened for over 400 years, right? We're supposed to forget about it in 50 years. You can't, right? Now, my family is the most UN, everybody look different. I think I'm still the only Black person in my family right now. My wife's Korean, my daughter's half, my son's half, and my daughter's married Caucasian people, right? So you see my family photo, I'm the only one looking like me. That's okay, right? But don't say things like systemic racism doesn't exist. Don't say things like we can't really discuss this because everybody's gonna feel uncomfortable, because I've been feeling uncomfortable in a whole lot of places I've been for 50-some years. Niagara Wheat feels different. I was elected school board, and somebody said, you know what, Darren, you'll never win the school board in Niagara Wheat. So why not? You'll see. So I went back to them after I won. I said, well, why trouble? They said I was wrong, right? This school district, it does a lot of good things, right? And getting back to this, to the equity, I go to different people and talk to different people about school districts and what they do. I tell them what we do. They say, oh, y'all do that? Really? Y'all have these? Y'all talk about that? Y'all try to do this? So keep doing the things that we're doing, right? Kind of encompass everybody. And I think we're gonna be all right. One more thing. With the gentleman, he's gone now. So we try, well, I think we might say we try to hire different people, you know, say to reflect the population of your school, right? Now, that doesn't mean go out there and hire 5 Black people, 2 gay people, 3 Chinese people, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying? But we should, you know what I'm saying, try. Everybody still got to put the application in. We can't make nobody apply for it with this advertising. So if we keep doing those things, I think we're gonna be all right. And I'm proud to have my grandkids in the school district. I'm proud my kids graduated and become better because of Niagara Regional School District. Thanks for giving me time to talk. Sorry for the 3 minutes I was over.
All right, we'll move on with the consensus agenda items then. At this time, I call for a motion to approve the consensus agenda as submitted.
So
it's been moved and seconded. Any item to separate or to discuss? Oh, is it on there? We do have to separate one. Item 1 we have to vote on before we vote on the remainder of them. All those in favor of accepting or to appoint Jan Ball as acting district clerk for tonight's meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. All right, for items 2 through 10, anything to discuss or to vote on separately? If not, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. A personnel report. I have to call for a motion to accept the personnel report as submitted.
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll separate number 1. Is there any other items to separate or to discuss? All right, all those in favor then accepting items 2 through 18, please say aye. 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 Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. Item 1 to the superintendent.
Thank you. So tonight you had an opportunity to hear from Mrs. Vuich, who is our principal at Colonial Village. It is my great joy to recommend Mrs. Vuich for tenure. She is kind. She is compassionate. She has worked diligently to create, and you heard some of them today, wraparound services for our students and their families. She is a can-do leader. In other words, if there's something that needs to be done, she'll raise her hand and then try. I think she tries to beat everybody else in the room, puts her hand up and says, yep, I'm in, I'll do it. She is involved on our CDEP team. She is also, as you saw tonight, a member of our equity and education team. And when she joins those teams, she doesn't just join the team. She often takes on co-chair roles on those teams. She's an integral part of our instructional leadership team. She is an important piece of our district leadership team. And last and most importantly, and anybody who's had a chance to work with her knows that the thing that she cares most about is kids. And that's where we always want to start with hiring. I think we ended up knocking it out of the park with bringing Mrs. Vuich on as a principal in our district. And so I'm very proud to be recommending her for tenure. Thank you.
You didn't vote on it yet. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the tenure appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. Congratulations. Should have held it to the end of the meeting. Clapping. Extended committee report, capital project.
Yeah, so Monday we had our meeting. We kind of went over what we're working at the present. Currently, Eric Road roofing is about 20%. They replaced the hardware in the doors, and they're about 70% completed. West Street roofing is about 60% completed. And the PA system, which I understand was held together by clips, is now at 80% complete. Colonial Village door hardware replacement is at 95%. And the water meters replacement, which you can see outside, they're digging outside in the front here for the high school, they're about 75% complete. The big thing they have to do there is they have to make it winterized because they brought things up above the ground and to finish that project up. Going forward, next year or this year coming up, Eric Road boiler room replacement, Eric room classroom, the univents and the shelving that you see along the windows, those will be replaced. Colonial Village roofing will be replaced. Colonial Village classroom, the same thing with the univents and shelvings, they're going to be replaced. Along with the fire alarm system upgrade to Colonial Village. Eric Road, West Street, and Colonial Village generators will be replaced. And last, high school and Edwardtown Middle School parking lot, which is out here in front, there's going to be a major renovation done on that this summer. So, things are looking good there. We are going to go over some of the other items later after, I would say fall or.
Yeah, so probably late, we're probably looking at late fall to start talking about what's left on the building condition survey and start talking about next project.
Okay. Any questions on the capital project? Great. We have an internal claims audit report there as an informational item. Please make sure you review that. Ex officio student members report. Marissa.
So yeah, I guess a couple things I'll talk about. I feel like everything's kind of like calming down in the classroom, but the cool thing is that it's outside the classroom, it's just not. Like there's still so many sports going on, which is so exciting. I know like there was a girls lacrosse game on Monday, I think, and it was like senior night, and there are so many people like in the stands watching, which is super cool to see. And it was like Hawaiian night, so everyone's dressed up in their Hawaiian stuff, and that's awesome, especially with the new field. And then there's all these events going on. Like last week, there was this Field by Literacy thing that was put together by the language teachers, and that was a really nice way to like
celebrate all the students who got their seal by literacy, their senior awards, and then of course last Friday was the prom, and that was an awesome night. It was great at class, and everyone just had a really fun time and really enjoyed themselves coming together as a class. And yeah, everyone I talked to, they're just like, yep, it was just so fun, which is great. So yeah, we all just want to thank like Mrs. Mayo, our class advisor, all the administrators, the chaperones, everyone who helped put it together because it was a really nice night. So that was awesome. And then yeah, the last thing I guess is about like graduation going on next week. There's like been all these new guidelines that are kind of promising for a lot of people with like vaccines and COVID testing. So that's a positive thing. And I guess my last thing is I just wanted to thank everyone on the board for this past year. It's been a really awesome experience getting to know you all. And I've definitely learned a lot and grown a lot in the process. You know, it was intimidating coming into a room full of adults. I was a little scared, but I definitely think it's helped me and I feel more confident. We've had a lot of good laughs and good memories. And I'm just really grateful for the experience. I don't really know what I'm going to do with my Wednesday nights now. I'm going to have to figure that out. I mean, I'm sure I'll find something, but it won't be as fun. So I'm just going to miss it. So thank you, everyone.
I know I think I'm safe in speaking for the rest of the board that it's been an honor and a privilege to have you serve on the board with us this year. And I know you have some, I say this to every year, the incoming person has some big shoes to fill for the previous year. So, and yes, I know it was scary at the beginning. We put you next to Mike, which can be really intimidating and scary. So, but again, as the board president and as a member of this board for many years, we'd like to thank you for your time serving with us. And we look forward to seeing you grow in the future with your future endeavors.
Thank you. Oh, and I just want to thank you for the basket. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Reese's are my favorite. So those will be gone today.
That's all Julie. She is our fashion and gift consultant here. The rest of us have no.
I'll give you a hug after.
Rick wanted to give you a deer head. I mean,
That would have been great too.
She's good.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. We'll go over to superintendent's report.
Having to follow her all year has not been easy, of course, because you always put her ahead of me. But the two things you touched on, Marissa, one was graduation. Just to inform everyone, we did send something out to all of our senior parents. What was lifted was this, because we're staying within the 33% of the 2,500, we'll have 3 guests per senior. As long as we stay within that 33%, now our families do not have to be tested or show proof of vaccination. The only requirement that's really in place is this, that family members who are unvaccinated are expected to wear masks until they get to their seats, and then everyone can be unmasked. So that was a big change for us, certainly. I'll tell you, my worst fear for graduation until that changed was that we were going to have a senior. It would have been bad enough if it was a parent, but if we were going to have a senior who came in and got tested that morning and was positive, and couldn't go. So, when that was lifted, I think a lot of people were just absolutely thrilled. So thank you for touching on that. And then thank you for introducing Anna Rick, pronounced correct. Okay. To everyone here tonight, Anna will be our next ex officio student board member. So welcome. Just have a couple more things. One, we need to pick a date for our board retreat. So I don't know if you have some ideas, if you want to throw them around, if you want to send something out, maybe.
What I'd like us to decide tonight is, do you want it to be a weekday or a weekend? I sort of think I can guess what that's going to fall under, but I do want to start with that.
I'm open. What's the format?
it usually is like a full day workshop. The last time we had one, we started about 9 a.m. and ended around 4. You can do evenings, just crunch for time and time wise and everything like that. Depending on people's work schedule, we've done one on a Saturday before, but we've also done it where we did it on a Wednesday preceding a board meeting and did like a marathon day. So that was the first year we did that. It was interesting. So what I'd like to do is pick set weekend or weekday, and then I'm going to ask you to email me 3 dates that would work for you, and we'll see if we can coordinate everything if you look in schedule wise. I'd like to do it on a Wednesday if it's a weekday. We'll do it opposite of a board meeting week, so it's not a 12-hour day of going through everything.
What time period are we looking at?
Probably July. Yeah.
So do we have 1 or 2 meetings in July?
I believe we have 2 this year. We have 2.
It looks like, and you'll have to
The
vote on
reorg
that,
and
but
then
we'll have 2 in July and then
Yeah.
1 in August.
So we would do it a week in between probably if we would do it, or the week after the last one.
So the 7th or the 21st, you have board meeting.
Yes. So we could go the 14th or the 28th.
Not the 28th.
Not the 20th for you? I mean, we don't have to do it on a Wednesday. We could do it on one of the, but as long as it's a week between the meetings. So why don't you just send me some dates of the 2 weeks that we're off around those meetings, and we'll go with whatever the most people have picked then for that.
Is that including the date of the meeting, right? Our meetings, like we did before?
Yeah.
So if you did it on a Wednesday evening or Wednesday during the day?
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. What would work best? You guys, can everyone
There's
get?
some people that work.
Yeah.
Actually, can summarize it.
You know what,
That
it might
works, I
be,
think.
just a thought,
Yeah.
it might make it easier if people send their schedules as to when they can't.
All
Like,
right.
when are they gonna be gone? Like if somebody's out of town, or if they're gonna be away for
When
a
is that
week,
August
and then let's see what days are left.
I can't remember.
Did you say what date the August meeting was? Rick?
7th and the 4th and the 21st.
That's July, we didn't.
Yeah, we're-
July and July
And what about August? I was trying to stay away
August
from
we-
August with the amount of
yeah.
stuff that actually is going on in there. With,
Fourth and the 18th.
Do you want us to, what we can do is we can send out a couple of schedules, like what we do with for
Yeah.
our DLT retreat.
yeah, we'll do that.
We can do that. Okay. Yeah, we'll send something out to everybody. We'll narrow some.
But is the day schedule okay with everyone then? I mean, with work wise, if we do it, I know, I think most of us can get off during the week there. Okay. Yeah, I know you can. Yeah, you're funny. Yeah. All right. So we'll do it as a day schedule then. What's better than is if we do, have any speakers come in, or if we have NISBA come in during the day, works better for a lot of those people than having an evening one. So we have a wider range of ideas. The second part is the retreat topics. If there's a topic that you wish to include in there to discuss or learn more about, please also submit that to the superintendent and I, so that we can start forming an agenda around there and seeing what we can narrow down to. And can we get all of that by next week, Wednesday?
It's a tough assignment.
Yeah, it's going to be APA style.
That's what I'm saying.
Double
It might
space.
almost be better to just do it on the day of a board meeting, because
Well, I mean, that's just,
that time's kind of already allotted.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, just.
I mean, we did, so what we did that time was we did it during the day like that, and we did, we ordered dinner and, and we had
Bang it out.
stuff like that. So, I mean, if you want to do it that way, we could do it on the 7th or the 21st. We were already planning on being there. I would recommend the 21st in that situation, because the 7th is the reorg meeting, and that's
Gotta look at me.
already a couple hours. You have an appointment?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because here's our other problem is that technically Rick and I can't do it until after the 7th, after the night of the 7th, because that's when we're re-sworn in.
Right. All right, well,
Yeah.
we'll send dates.
Okay. All right, back to your report.
Just 2 quick things. One, Nelson, could you just talk a little bit about some really good news when it came to an interest rate?
Yes, so we put out for a ban. For those of you that don't know what a ban is, it's a bond anticipation note. So as we're going through our capital project and expending the funds, we bid out bans to borrow those funds, and then it's bonded at the end of the project. This project is done. So this last bid that went out, which was this week, I was told was the lowest interest rate they've ever had, ever. And we got the prize, they said, so it was 0.195%.
And understand that, the financial position of a district impacts what that interest rate is. And I think that's just really important to understand. And, we've seen like, the positive Moody's ratings and, their fiscal stress level where it's dropped and, all of those things. And when Nelson came, knocked on my door and said, I have great news, I knew it was financial. But then whenever I heard, that interest rate, I mean, it's fantastic. And it's a place that we certainly wouldn't have been able to live, a few years ago. So nice work to the business office and to the board for some of that work that got us to a point where we could have an interest rate like that.
Just jumping back to my report for real. All right, you didn't do the last one, the grab and go.
Oh, yeah, last thing, when it comes to, I didn't know if you were going to speak on that. Food service, I say at every meeting, the food until next June 30th, so June 30th, 2022, will be free, breakfast and lunch in the district. So we want to just make sure everybody knows that and takes advantage. Thank you.
Just a couple of things from my report. First, Allison, great work again on that. Obviously, financially, we have come a long way in the past 10 years from when us old timers, Rick and I, were first on the board. But it's a testament for all your hard work and everything. So thank you. The other item was I want to give great credit to the production staff, the teachers and advisors who put together the virtual musical. I'm hoping all of you got a chance to watch it. And if you haven't, make sure you watch it. It's phenomenal. The kids did a great job with it on there. Make sure you watch the 1 hour, 1 minute mark. There's a great dance solo by our superintendent. So I highly recommend that.
Wait, are you serious?
Mm-hmm. You never watch
Why is it
stuff
not
on
up here? I just didn't get a chance to look at it yet.
Yeah, highly recommend. I think Dan's under penalty of death over there if he puts it up on the screen right now. So, yeah. So I do make a recommendation to all of you. Take your time out, watch the kids. The kids are phenomenal in it. It was absolutely great. And I mean, I had the pleasure of working with them on it. And they just blow me away every time I'm in there and listening to them. So.
And those that don't know, there's a part in there too where the board president sounds really great, has a great voice.
It's not as good as the dancing. I'm telling you.
You sing each meeting now?
I am not singing at each meeting. Oh my Lord. No, because my faculty somehow got the video too of me singing, and now they want me to sing the national anthem every morning at school. So yeah. It was either one of you two. I mean, I know that got that sent over. So yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Items for board discussion. Anything brought up for any previous meeting stuff, old business and stuff for discussion? Oh my goodness, because it's like really tiny. All right. Allison, finance.
I just wanted to let the board know that I put out an RFP or request for proposal for banking because it has actually never been done since I've been. I thought it was a good idea to see where we're at with our banks. So 3 responses from 3 different banks. And in the end, the scores came out that the 2 banks that we currently deal with were the best choice. So my recommendation for the next year is to stick with the 2 banks we have.
Okay. You're good.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks for checking that.
Yeah. All right. Any old business this time then? Any new business this time then?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
First, I want to thank you guys for coming out and advocating for your kids and for your kids speaking up. I think it's good and important for us to hear from you and them. I don't know board's thoughts on any further ways we can advocate for the kids. I was looking at statistics earlier, and for 17 and under, it's something like 600 times less risk that they're at for mortality than the rest of the population, 18 and up. It seems like the kids are being put in a position where they are being treated differently than the rest of the populace, and I don't know how you guys feel. If there's letters to write, if there's any board directives to do anything differently than what we're doing. I'm gonna open that up if anyone has any thoughts. I know a lot of, like Senator Moore is calling on the governor to lift the things. I don't know if anything we can do as a board, if we're in consensus to send letters to advocate for this, and then anything else down the road if it seems like we're being unfairly positioned or kids are, bearing the brunt of this.
I know in talking to the other board presidents, we're on a wait and see for the next like week and a half because of the same message that the superintendent said, is that other announcement that is heard to be coming. Because basically what has happened is Senator Orr, along with the other legislators, have pressured the governor's office to contact the CDC and say, this is what our state's doing. Could you please revise your statement for our state? So I know as a board president's group, we said, well, let's see what comes of that. And if you either go with a week and a half, that's the end of the school year. Given to the end of the school year, basically to make an adjustment for next year. And then we're gonna be meeting again to discuss what's going to happen with next year. I can tell you that from talking to many of the board presidents, the feeling of wearing masks from last year when we met at this time to this year has greatly changed. In that, the general consensus is time's up for them in schools. It's time to move on from that phase and to really end all the truly end all the restrictions from the pandemic. But again, we don't want to go and just not talking about any districts in particular. We don't want to go to that level where we have a retaliation from state ed for making any actions for any of our districts right now, as we know that are probably going to happen with a certain district in the state. So that is where we lie. We as a board, I would wait until to the end of the school year to we get back into July and see what's transpired, because things, as a superintendent said, graduation stuff changes like daily right now. Twice of that one day. We had two different things, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So I want to wait and see in that regards and give into the end of the school year and see what happens at that point.
Dan, I don't know if you can give me any other documentation that you would contend that we refute the medical full exemption locally while they're in school. I'd like to see that. But barring that, I mean, like I said before, I would encourage you to reevaluate or look at the language and see if there is in some way that change things sooner than later and still follow the rules that are laid out.
Yep.
You mentioned retaliation. Is it the school district idea which one of the guest speakers mentioned, or is there something else?
No, I'm not going to go into detail, but that is,
okay.
it's in, I'll say it's the only district in Western New York that's something. So you can put two and two together that there's, and contention in their board too with it. So,
Yeah.
We always wait to see how certain things play out before we jump into other things, because, we need to see what happens with them first. I'll put it that way. So, yeah, I mean, I would not right now, move against anything for next year, because one, as we haven't heard exactly everything that is going to be happening next year. I'd like to see that whole package of what the whole reopening of school is going to look like next year right now. And I know state ed will probably be putting something out very shortly with that, into July, because, let's face it, there could be something else that pops up all of a sudden for reopening next year that we're going to be sitting here the same way and say, what in the hell are they thinking? And it could be even a higher priority than masks, for people. So I just waiting till July, a couple of weeks to July and getting through this end of the school year, I think would be prudent on our part to see what changes come down from state ed and the governor's office. So, but again, that's my opinion. You know, the rest of the board, you guys may have other opinions and stuff.
I just say, you know, I concur that we should just wait another 10 days or so, 14 days, whatever, for more answers it goes. But I say I commend the families that were involved in grassroots campaigns for the no masks last week, one that checked the other day in the city. I think that's definitely where things change is from grassroots organizations that continue to impress upon that, you know, the legislators. I mean, you know, the governor's executive powers not being taken by the legislators. That's who we really need to reach out to keep pushing and pressing upon change if that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Anyone else? Okay. Anything else, Jim? Okay. And we'll have public comments then at this time. There's no other new business. If anyone wants to speak of anything that's been discussed or on the agenda for tonight? Mr. Bax, I'm surprised.
No, I'll be quiet today.
There's a first for everything. Impressive. Sorry, he'll probably stop by my house and talk my ear off. Any board member comments?
I have something.
Okay.
I just wanna say to Marissa how fun it's been to have you on the board with us this year. Your energy is contagious and you are so fun and always have a wonderful report that we just love to hear. And you definitely will be missed. But so excited all of us are to see like where you go and what you do and just live your life and have fun and make memories and, you know, do all the things that, you know, you're supposed to do at your age. So we'll definitely miss you and on to better things. And
Thank
then,
you so much.
yeah,
And I'll miss you on Zoom.
I know, you're so cute. I mean, half the year you had to do Zoom meetings with us, which
Yeah,
is
I
like
know.
the worst. So if you could
Yeah.
survive that, you can survive anything. And then welcome, Anna. We're so happy to have you and we'll show you the ropes.
You know, and I want to echo what Julie just said, but I like what you said, Marissa, about learning it and kind of, you never used the word mature, but seemed to bring you to a different level going into college, being around us old people.
Hey!
And you know what I mean? You seem to recognize
I didn't say this
as a
time.
young adult to help you go through. And I welcome you.
I too like to thank Marissa. You can really kind of inspire this group of us this year with your outgoing enthusiasm. It's really, at this time, we needed something like that. So I really like to thank you for coming on board. Anna, I would like to congratulate you and welcome aboard.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on everybody. Marissa, it was great to have you on the board this year. And the position that you're in really gives us a flavor of what's going on in the school. You know, we can hear things, but your reports are honest, sincere, and I got a good vibe of what the school felt like without being there, because we couldn't get the sporting events, limited capacity, but no, I just wish you well, everything you do. And welcome Anna, and I'm sure she'll pass off the baton to you and you'll be in good hands and look forward to next year. Yeah, likewise, what they said. Where are you going to school again?
I'm going to Colgate.
Colgate, nice. Like the two. For dental.
I've heard that one before.
Well, enjoy and it's been a pleasure and welcome.
So do you have your speech written for graduation?
I actually went in today and practiced it with Mr. Koval, me and Jillian. We practiced it,
Excellent.
and he only stopped me once today. So.
Good. Well, just Rick's an expert speech writer. So if you ever need any advice, feel free to reach out to him. So with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. We're adjourned.